ever wonder what the future of work will look like? In the Hope at Work podcast, you will be exposed to new workplace norms, modern technologies, and unconventional ideas, all from a positive point of view. You'll never look at work the same way again. Hello and welcome everyone to the Hope at Work podcast. With me today is Niluka Kavanagh. I'm going to go ahead and introduce her because she has a really impressive set of credentials. I'm warning you, this is going to take half the podcast, but that's okay. It's worth it. So first of all, she is the founder of Imagine That. This is a business school for nomadic entrepreneurs. We're going to talk about what that means, but basically she's helping ambitious but bored professionals start their own independent online services business and work from anywhere. So Niluka graduated from Oxford University, started her career like many people do in big consulting at KPMG in London, worked with very large global brands like Tesco. For you Americans, that's a very large grocery chain. MasterCard, the London Stock Exchange, and a few years later wanted to embark on an experiment, and ask the question, is it possible to work for yourself and work from anywhere? During this time, she worked for a couple of years, starting her own businesses. Niluka, you worked all over the globe, Valencia, Lisbon, Istanbul. Where else did you work?
I also did a stint in Chiang Mai in Asia. I have worked in Da Nang. I have worked a little bit in Kuala Lumpur. And now I'm in the Canary Islands, all around the world.
I didn't know you were in the Canary Islands. That's amazing. Okay. So let me finish her bio here. Again, there's a lot more to get to, and I want to jump into kind of how you ended up in this space. So you've got your own YouTube channel called Breaking Boundaries with Niluka. You're an international speaker and writer, have articles published in the World Financial Review, constantly on international podcasts. I love that you've also lectured at Trinity College in Dublin and at Edinburgh University, both wonderful institutions. But recently, you branded yourself as the Nomadic Entrepreneur, and it feels like, Niluka, you've answered the question, is it possible to work for yourself and gain what I imagine you would call location freedom? Do you agree that question's been answered?
Yes, it has. The hypothesis was answered.
So what was that hypothesis to begin with, and how did you get here?
Absolutely. So I think most people think that someone who has transitioned from corporate to entrepreneurship was coming from a place of perhaps burnout, toxic culture, hating what I was doing. Actually, it was none of that. I enjoyed my time working at the Big Four. As you said, I worked with a number of different clients. I was progressing well. On paper, there was no real reason to leave. But I got to a point where I thought, is this it? Is this just what I'm going to do with my career? Keep progressing, keep getting more money, staying in London. What else am I going to do? And I think I've always been naturally quite entrepreneurial. So when I was at KPMG, I was building a number of internal initiatives. And I just thought, okay, I need to do something else. I need to go on an adventure. So I asked myself, is it possible to work for myself? And is it possible to work from anywhere? And it began as an experiment. And then a few years later, I realized, yes, the answer is yes. And then that led me on to create Imagine That, the business school for nomadic entrepreneurs, because I saw that a lot of people were asking me, how did you do this? How is this possible? And that is the journey that I took.
That's wonderful. So I want to talk a little bit more about this concept of being a nomadic entrepreneur, and also learn a little bit more about the business school as well. So what led you to develop such a strong interest in this concept? And can you help us understand how you define it?
So I think if we break it down, nomadic means having the freedom to move, the freedom to explore. It's not about being fixed to any set location. It's about having that option to experience different cultures, different environments. Meanwhile, entrepreneurship is, in its essence, about building your own business, building your own thing from the ground up, taking risks, creating value. So what happens when we bring those two elements together? It is essentially what that hypothesis was, working for yourself and working from anywhere. And I think I developed an interest in it because, honestly, I also want more people to see that it is possible, to see that there is this alternative path. We don't need to accept the status quo. We can carve out our own path, but you have to be brave to do it. And I look back to where I was and I never saw this role model, this platform available. So that's why I thought, you know what? Let me try and inspire other people. If they want to do the same, it is possible.
That's awesome. So I love how you describe that and you use the term freedom. And man, that is so compelling to me. I think you know that I love the concept of hope. Recently released a hope assessment. And one of the things that has a big impact on whether or not somebody is hopeful is whether or not they feel like they have that freedom, that choice, that agency to be able to do what they want to do. And I think you've captured that really well. The other thing that you mentioned that I want to explore a little bit, Niluka, is you mentioned you've got to be brave to do this. I think so many of us assume that we can't take this kind of risk and we're afraid to do that. How in the world do you get beyond that? How did you get beyond that?
It didn't happen overnight. It definitely wasn't a case of, I'm going to do this thing and now it's going to happen the following week. It was a number of months, even a year, where it was at the back of my head. I always like to say to people, if you have this quiet voice in your head that keeps telling you to do this thing, don't ignore it. Because you don't want to get X number of years down the line and think, oh, I wish I had done that. If only. I always say, we often regret the things that we didn't do more than the things that we did. And so that's how I was brave. I said, okay, you know what have I got to lose really? If I do this and it doesn't work out and that hypothesis isn't true, I can't work for myself, I can't work from anywhere, okay, I'll just go back to corporate. I think people should realize that you sometimes just have to take a bet on yourself and not make it into this huge dramatic thing, but actually break it down into an experiment. I'm sure Marcus will talk a little bit more about that later on in the podcast.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you. So now, look, I think we both agree that the world of work has changed a lot over the last few years. The pandemic instituted a lot of new norms, new ways of working. And we also have new generations in the workforce that have a totally different set of expectations. How do you see that playing out over time in terms of like when, where, and how people work?
I think what's very interesting is Gen Z, more than any other generation, are putting travel higher on their list of priorities. There is a desire for experiences over possessions. The old school way is being torn up, partly because it feels inaccessible, rising house prices compared to salaries. But also, this generation has seen there is a new way of doing things that didn't previously exist. I have a mentor, friend of mine. He's in his 60s. I met him in my consulting days. And he said the closest that he ever got to taking work outside the office was printing something out, going home and highlighting it, right? So it's really interesting. And what is fascinating is that it's not just the younger generations, and this has surprised me with Imagine That in my academy. There are those in their third career stage, even those with families taking the leap. And just a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you saw this, Marcus, Condé Nast, one of the biggest media organizations in the world, released the complete guide to working from anywhere, which I think speaks volumes. So when people work is changing, where people work is changing, how people work is changing, right? When people work is changing, there's more flexibility, especially if you're working for yourself. Where people work, there is no limits as long as you have Wi-Fi and a decent setup. You could be at a cafe in Bali or at your home in Paris. How people work, I think we're working in a way that feels more meaningful. I think we're working in a way that contributes to our life and our career enriches our life rather than takes away from it.
Hello, I'm Ruth Thomas, host of Comp and Coffee, where we break down what's next in the world of compensation management. From pay transparency to performance alignment, we explore how businesses are rethinking compensation to drive impact, equity, and growth. So if you're shaping the future of pay at your organization, grab a cup and tune in. Listen on the Work Defined Podcast Network.
Yeah, I love that. So Condé Nast, I have not seen that article. I will definitely check it out. I think travel is one of those things for me. I just absolutely love it. And when you can actually combine travel and work and they don't have to be separate and distinct things, I want to explore that for just a moment and get your point of view and perspective, Niluka, because I've had this conversation with a few other guests on the podcast. It feels like there's kind of two camps in the world. Those that feel like work-life balance should be the way that we approach things. Those are separate and distinct things. or work-life integration or harmony and bringing those things together? I have a feeling I know which side of the coin you're on, but I'm curious to hear your point of view.
It's really interesting. I think for younger generations, but also for those who consciously choose it, the word is consciously there, we are moving towards work-life integration. I think back, Marcus, to my time in corporate, and I would be marking the days of annual leave on my calendar and counting how many hours I have left. It's just another world I'm in now, right? I think for those who consciously choose it, and for a lot of the younger generation, the question is now, how can my career add to my life rather than take away from it? How can I design a career that doesn't mean that I'm living for the weekends and dreading Monday mornings? How can I design a career that enriches my life and means that I don't have to count my days of annual leave? Work-life integration feels good, but I do want to disclaim here that you still have to set the boundaries up. Okay, sometimes you are still going to have to create that separation between work and life. But I think if we see it as a holistic whole, rather than facing the two off against each other, rather than always putting them in opposition as fighting for our attention, I think that is really interesting. And that is where the magic happens. How do they complement each other? That is the ultimate goal for me.
That may be one of the best answers I've gotten. So thank you. I appreciate that perspective. I was actually on holiday recently in the Bahamas, and I did two things while I was there. I went and recorded a call that I had to take, which was fine. And then I did a quick video actually promoting some of my work on LinkedIn. And I had no problem doing that, Niluka. It took an hour of my time out of an entire week. It's not a big deal for me. Again, a lot of people may disagree with that, but for me, I'm fine with that. And again, I think that really is complementary to what you just described in terms of you got to set boundaries. They need to be reasonable, but at the same time, is it a big deal to have that harmonization in your work and your personal life? So let me maybe land here with a couple of questions relative to now what? Because I'm guessing you're probably creating some serious intrigue in our listener audience of, I want to do this. How do I do this? So what advice would you give to people who are like, I want to explore this new way of working?
I would say, firstly, break it down. The theme that's come out of our conversation is around experimentation. Take the pressure off. So think about, if you're a corporate professional listening to this now, what are you good at? What skills and expertise do you currently have? And what are you interested in? Okay. And can you fix a problem in that space? I always tell those in my academy, if you can win one client, one customer, you can win 100 clients. And then, so that's the entrepreneurial side of things. Let's look at the nomadic side of things. If you're thinking about working from anywhere, again, break it down. Pick one place for a couple of months, if that, maybe just a month. See how you like it. It's not this huge decision. If I had said to myself, I'm going to be a digital nomad, I'm going to travel in 12 different places around the world, I'm going to have a multi-million-pound business as soon as I left corporate, I never would have done it. It would have been so overwhelming.
Yeah.
Instead, ask yourself, can I get one client to buy from me? Can I work in a different country for a few weeks or a month? Start small, but make sure that you start.
Yeah. Again, great advice. When we moved to London a few years ago, it was a challenging thing to bring a dog and a cat from the United States to set up bank accounts. It took a lot of effort, but it was so worth it. And it is funny. We did go on vacation once to Tenerife, to the Canary Islands. And after going there, I was like, I definitely want to move here. So how in the world do I get the approval to work in Spain? So I can understand why you're there at the moment. Wonderful place. So last question, in terms of your academy and the resources that you have available to people, your next cohort, tell us what's coming up and what's out there for us to be able to leverage.
Absolutely. So 3 things I will share with you. The first is you can join over 700 people and get my weekly newsletter with tips and advice on nomadic entrepreneurship. Link is in the description. Second thing is you can get the Imagine That guide. It's a really good starter guide for anyone interested in following this route. It's about 30 pages long, also in the description. And the third thing that, Marcus, you will know I'm very excited about is the next Academy cohort is starting next year, early next year in 2025. That is a 3-month program helping people take their area of expertise to start an online services business. And the wait list for that is currently open. So it's on a first come, first serve basis. So you can sign up to that too, if that's interesting.
Wonderful. Thank you, Niluka, so much. Really enjoyed the conversation. Looking forward to circling back with you at some point to see how all of this is developing.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Marcus.
You bet. Take care.